So peace on earth and goodwill to all men. Freedom is everybody's job. Civics, the Department of Political Science, which treats of citizenship, and the rights of citizenship, the duties of citizens, and relating to citizens, cities, and to civil affairs. It is the duty of all true American citizens to take their place in the affairs of their cities and their communities. Responsibility to self is also expressed through one's responsibility to one's community. We are teaching those things necessary to help make our people better citizens. The Constitution is the foundation of de jure law in all civilized governments. The Constitution of the United States Republic of North America is of ancient origin and is the supreme law of the land. The laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. Sounds like Article 6 to me, right? Clause 2. The civic duties of all who are part and parcel of this said government have the outstanding duty and responsibility to command the enforcement of our national constitution by name and by principle. So the principle, make sure the principle is highlighted, because principle is talking about character, national pride, unity. That's very broad, FYI. It is in place to secure and substantive rights of all free national beings. The peace, prosperity, and tranquility of all society depends upon the enforcement of those ancient governmental and constitutional principles. No community of natural people can ever be stable. No community of natural people can ever be stable, free, or secure if their inalienable rights and immunities, which are secured by the Constitution, are allowed to be abridged or ignored. Where there is no constitution enforcement, expect there to be political abuses of authority, a color of law, and foul disorder breeding among the natural people. There is no doubt that a major feature marking the social culture of North American political affairs is that of the heavily entrenched practices of human rights violations. Many of these common violations have been loosely categorized as racism, biases, etc. However, all citizens of this free national government of the United States should be aware of the international laws which have been instituted to address these matters. The United States of America is an obligated party to those human rights agreements. The question before us all is who? And where do we, the natural people, stand on these matters? Are we fulfilling our responsibility to enforce the supreme law for the protections of the substantial rights of all the natural people, etc.? Oath of office. Oath of office. All politicians and officers of the courts of the Republic, United States of America, and all federal and military officers, and all state and municipal officers, sheriffs, mayors, councilmen, freeholders, and policymen, etc., are bound by law to support and defend the Constitution. The following is an example of the standard oath which all of the above, etc., must take for the public record. And here's a general, it's like fill in the blanks for them. So I, whoever the person is, do solemnly swear to affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution for the United States against so they swear in, take oath to the Constitution and everything in it. Each justice, judge, justice of peace shall before entering upon the duties of his office take and subscribe an oath that he will support the Constitution for the United States and the Constitution for the State Republic to which he or she is a citizen, member, and that he or she will faithfully and impartially discharge his or her office to the best of his or her ability. The oaths of all judges of the courts, inferior to the superior, and the oaths of the justices of peace shall be filed in the office of the county recorder So the county recorder is where you find the oaths of who? Judges of courts, inferior, superior, oaths of the justice of peace. This is where you find these things to see if somebody has took an oath to the Constitution. Because if it's not there, then that's another level of violation, malpractice, all type of lawsuits. They become, you know what I mean? And the oaths of all other justices and judges shall be filed at the office of the Secretary of State. So we got records that you can find at the Secretary of State, and you got records that you can find at the county clerk, recorder's office. If you want the oaths of the justices and judges, go to the Secretary of State. You want the oaths of the Superior Court judges, peace officers, inferior court people, municipal cops, county recorder. If it's a municipal, then you're going to City Hall, the municipality. If it's the sheriff, you're going to the county level of the county recorder. Declaration
That's
on
some vital information.
yeah, real vital. So all people paying attention. So Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous People. Affirming that indigenous peoples are equal in dignity and rights to all other people, while recognizing the rights of indigenous people to be different, to consider themselves different, and to be respected as such. The following are 6 articles of Part 1. Part 1, Article 1. Indigenous people have the right to the full and effective enjoyment of all human rights and fundamental freedoms recognized in the Charter of the United Nations, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and international human rights law. Part 1, Article 2. Indigenous individuals and peoples are free and equal to all other individuals and peoples in dignity and rights, and have the right to be free from any kind of adverse discrimination, in particular, that based on the indigenous origin and identity. Part 1, Article 3. Indigenous people have the right to self-determination. By virtues of that right, they freely determine their political status and freely pursue their economic and social and cultural development. Can't force people to be minorities if they know thyself. That would be called genocide. And that's a human rights violation. Part 1, Article 4. Indigenous people have the right to maintain and strengthen their distinct political, economical, social, and cultural life of the state. What is a state? We should know that by now. Group of people bound together by common law in an organized body, right? Khalifa society. And if it's national, right, it's a national state, it's a nation state, right? It's by default, rights of indigenous people, Inter-American Declaration and the United Nations Declaration attached, because it's already been decided in many library congresses, City Hall. Go to LA, down the street, the mayor, he got a proclamation saying that we Aboriginal indigenous to North, Central, and South America. There's one in Chicago, there's one in Texas, it's one in Georgia, right? House Resolution 1203, that's the Georgia version. So since there's no debate that Moors are Aboriginal indigenous, we have to enforce this document. Rights of indigenous people. Part 1, Article 5. Every indigenous individual has the right to a nationality. Part 1, Article 6. Indigenous people have the collective right to live in freedom, peace, and security as distinct people, and to full guarantees against genocide or any other acts of violence, including the removal of indigenous children from their families and communities under any pretext. So once again, this is a general law enforcement code of ethics that all officers are bound by. They get this in their training packet. Law enforcement code of ethics. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives and property, to protect the innocent against deception, the weak against oppression or intimidation, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect constitutional rights of all men, to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life unsullied as an example to all, maintain courageous calm in the face of dangers, scorn, or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful of the welfare of others, honest in thought and deed in both my personal and official life. I will be exemplary in obeying the laws of the land and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature or that is confided to me in my official capacity will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or friendships to influence my decisions. With no compromise for crime and with relentless persecution of criminals, I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately, without fear or favor, malice or ill will, never employing unnecessary force or violence, and never accepting gratitudes. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of the police service. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession, law enforcement. So they take an oath to the Constitution. They take an oath to be ethical. They take an oath to obey the laws of the land. That's the language in here. They're obeying the laws of the land. They supposed to respect jurisprudence. That's the language. So let me go to the next piece. Number 6. Republic versus democracy. Ali Khan, Islam.
Islam, Noble. Peace, boy.
Ali.
Islam, peace, nobles.
So we got republic truth versus democracy fraud. The following law definitions are presented word for word, firmly discerning and denoting the distinctions made between the constitutionality sanctioned republic versus the colorably imposed democracy, which has been contemporarily propagated by questionable, plausible, and less than loyal politicians, military officers, social engineers, and school teachers, etc. For law verification of their criminality, see the United States Article 4, Section 4. And in Article 4, Section 4, it says, anybody know? You have the right to a Republican form of government. These official excerpts are derived from the Soldier's Training Manual, TM 2000. Is issued under the authority of the government by the War Department of the United States, Republic, North America, dated November 30, 1928. So what does it say in this Soldier's Training Manual? That's military. This Soldier's Training Manual by the War Department of the United States. This was issued in 1928. The reader is advised to be cognizant of the supreme law of the land, Constitution, when reading, analyzing, and considering the serious social and political violations and ramifications involved in the exposure of this military information. Also keep in mind the following law-binding facts concerning the official oath of the Commander-in-Chief, i.e. President. Every soldier who enlists and any soldier who were drafted into any branch of military service under the authority of or under the jurisdiction of the United States Republic. The following is an excerpt from the solemn oath as taken by law by all military personnel. And it is, quote, I swear or affirm to defend the United States and the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic, Article 4, Section 4 of the Constitution. The United States shall guarantee to every state in this union a republican form of government, which is opposite of democracy. That's de jure. And shall protect each of them against invasion, and on application of the legislator or of the executive when the legislator cannot be convened, against domestic violence. So why is Article 4, Section 4 important? Because you have the right to a republican form of government. And if you look at the rights of indigenous people, me personally, I like the Inter-American Declaration version better. It's language consistent in there that talks about you have the right to self-determination. Same people with the same nationality have the right to form a nation state, have the right to self-government, have the right to set up government as they wish. You know, that's now you have internal affairs. You're setting the tone for jurisdiction, but if nothing's organized or respectable from the outside looking in, you know what I'm saying? You don't see businesses, schools, you don't see people patrolling the area as muftis in our culture, European culture, police, whatever, right? You can even call them sharifs, you know what I mean? If they're not circling the block like the municipal policy enforcers do for their municipalities, then it's not respectable. And if it's not to that level, then it's not respectable, simple as that. So that's another thing that we have to aim towards in the midst of getting competent government structure. And, you know, eventually, as the years go on, you know, it'll be more people structured going about things. And like I say, it's a lot that goes with this. A Republican form of government is not only a bunch of people talking about what rights they got. That's just a part of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the economy looking like? What businesses we got? You know what I'm saying? What's it looking like? Do we got some emotion where we teaching younger people like, okay, you know, we getting old, you know, y'all gonna have to run this once it's over for us type stuff. Is that type of system going on? These are all positive law examples that I gave. Razir Islam, who else just came up in here?
Hey,
Peace, more.
Islam.
Islam.
Making my way, you know. Still doing the same old, as far as leaving the field, but just wanted to check in, just make sure I can tap in with the field.
I can't hear you.
I'll say
No, I
my
can't
bad.
hear you.
Tap in with the field and all that good stuff, you know. Oh shoot, you know what? I know what it is.
Yeah, Islam. Oh, there it was, Romello. That's what John Islam.
Islam, John.
Islam, boy. Peace.
Islam. Hey, Islam, peace.
Islam, brother.
So now we go into the opposite. Soldiers Training Manual, TM 2000. We're still in the War Department, still in 1928. We're still November 30. But now it's TM 2000, Section 25, 118 through 120 dealing with democracy. So democracy, a government of the masses, authority derived through mass meeting or any other form of direct expression, results in mobocracy. Attitude towards property is communistic, negating property rights. So negating property rights, they're not with that in democracy. Attitude towards law is that the will of the majority shall regulate, whether it's based upon deliberation or governed by passion, prejudice, and impulse without restraint or regard of consequences. Results in demagogism, license, agitation, discontent, and anarchy. So now let's read Republic. Authority is derived through the election of the people, of public officials, best fitted to represent them. Attitude towards property is respect for laws and individual rights, and a sensible economic procedure. Attitude towards law is the administration of justice in accord with fixed principles and established evidence with strict regard to consequences. A greater number of citizens and extent of territory may be brought within within its compass. Avoid dangerous extreme of either tyranny or mobocracy. So it's the opposite of democracy, because you know mobocracy was one of the right characteristics of democracy. Results in statesmanship, liberty, reason, justice, contentment, and progress. Progress, constantly thinking, expanding. How can we make this thing better? You know, the people representing the people. People, right? Elected officials, back to self-governing, internal affairs, national, a national form of government. So the nationals will be, what is the government? The government is just the people, right? So a national form of government means the nationals are the mayors, whatever we calling them. Calling them sheiks, we calling them emirs, we calling them caliphs, you know, whatever we decide, but that needs to be taking place. And the people are doing it. It's not foreigners in these elected official seats. That's the point. Distinguishing national from pseudo or democracy. Ancillary definitions. Mobocracy. Government by mob. The mob as a ruling body. That definition coming from Oxford Universal Dictionary, 1933. The legal definitions of treason. Excerpts from Henry Campbell, Black's Law Dictionary. Definition of the terms and phrases of American and English jurisprudence, ancient and modern. Revised 4th edition, West Publishing Company, 1968, and from Oxford Universal Dictionary, 1933, and from Britannica, World Language Dictionary, 1965. Treason. Definition of treason is the offense of attempting by overt acts to overthrow the government of the state to which the offender owes allegiance. Run that back. I don't think y'all really comprehended what's going on here. Treason is the offense of attempting to, by overt acts, to overthrow the government of the state to which the offender owes allegiance. So we already know the definition. Go to the law book, 4th edition, definition of nationality, that quality of character. So we're talking about character, right? That reflects the nation. We're talking about signify that you belong to a nation or a state. And we know that state is just short for nation state, right? And nationality signify that you have allegiance to a nation. So if you're a traitor and you're trying to cause confusion in a state government body for the purpose of maybe a coup, maybe just to cause confusion, so to stop the progress. Remember we read progress earlier, scroll up. Progress is a signification of a republic form of government, right? So people trying to stop the progress would be treason, commit treason. Because a republic form of government means you honor your mothers and fathers, because it's a national form of government. Nationals got, right, treaties, we got, ancient culture that we're preserving and keeping going. So anybody trying to interrupt that, right, is going against divinity, treasonous, right? It's very deep when you start analyzing these things, right? So treason is the offense of attempting to overthrowing the government of the state to which the offender owes allegiance, or of betraying the state into the hands of a foreign power. And that's what went on, right? 1492. That's the only reason the Red House fell. Ain't no way that we fallen just by brute strength of the modern European or whatever. It's just inside job always the way we fail. It's historically documented. Every time we fail is based on traitors. You know, even down to the 60s, that CIA, FBI, always our people, Boule, going with them, infiltrating, giving them tips, what they got going on. All right, go in here and do that, and act a fool up in there, disrupt everything, have people skeptical to, even be a part of this more science thing. That's the goal. Go until pro, right? So treason consists of two elements: adherence to the enemy and rendering him aid and comfort. Treason against the United States shall consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies. Misprison of treason. 1, a contempt against the sovereign government of the courts of justice, including not only contempt of court, properly so-called, but also all forms of seditious or disloyal conduct and lese majesty. 2, maladministration of high public office, including peculation of the public funds. 3, a neglect or light account made of a crime, that is failure in the duty of a citizen to endeavor or attempt to prevent the commission of a crime, or having knowledge of its commission to reveal it to the other proper authorities, and the concealment of something which ought to be revealed. So those are all examples of misprison of treason. Back to the character, you know what I mean? Like nationality, character, and belonging to the state and the nation. Treason, the act of betrayal of the trust undertaken or reposed in anyone, a breach of faith, treachery, a violation by a subject of his allegiance to his sovereign or to the state. Misprison, that was Oxford Universal Dictionary. This is treason from the Britannica World Language Dictionary. Betrayal, treachery, or breach of allegiance, or of obedience towards the sovereign or government. You're betraying your people. That's take the dust off what I read. Sum it up. You're a traitor to your people and the organization that was agreed upon. You want to go against the grain. Treason against the United States is declared by the Constitution, Article 3, Section 3, to consist only in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort, a breach of faith, treachery. See synonyms. A synonym under fraud. A synonym to treason is fraud. I'm not saying that. Britannica World Language Dictionary saying that. Now let's read fraud. Fraud, an intentional perversion of truth for the purpose of inducing another in reliance upon it to part with some valuable thing belonging to him, or to surrender a legal right, a false representation of a matter of fact, whether by words or by conduct, by false or misleading allegations, or by concealment of what which should have been disclosed, which deceives and is intended to deceive another, so that he shall act upon it to his legal injury. Fraud is a generic term embracing all multifarious means which human ingenuity can devise, and which are resorted to by one individual to get the advantage over another by false suggestions or by suppression of truth, and includes all surprise, trick, cunning, dissembling, and any other unfair way by which another is cheated. Bad faith and fraud are synonymous, and also synonymous of dishonesty, infidelity, faithlessness, perfidy, unfairness, etc., and consists of some deceitful practice or willful device. resorted to with the intent to deprive another of his right or in some manner to do him an injury, and distinguished from negligence, because negligence is just negligent. That I mean you have ill will. You just were deemed to be a professional and you messed up. So that's malpractice. Shit happens. But this we're not talking about negligence. We're talking about flat out fraud. It is also positive and international. Black's Law Dictionary of Fraud. Crime.
Intentional.
Right. Right. Definition of crime. A positive or negative act in violation of penal law, an offense against the state. Crime and misdemeanor, properly speaking, are synonymous terms. Though in common usage, crime is made to denote such offenses as are of deeper and more atrocious dye. Crimes are those wrongs which the government notices as injuries to the public and punishes in what is called a criminal proceeding in its own name. A crime may be defined to be any act done in violation of those duties which an individual owes to the community, and for the breach of which the law has provided that the offender shall make satisfaction to the public. A crime or public offense is an act committed or omitted in violation of law, forbidding or commanding it, and to which it is annexed upon conviction, either of the following punishments: 1, death; 2, imprisonment; 3, fine; 4, removal from office; 5, disqualification to hold and enjoy any office of honor, trust, or profit in this state, whatever state. These are principles, like I say, so if it's a nation state, then these are still governmental principles. It's internal. It's just, like I said, elected officials would be sheiks, treasuries, secretaries, like I say, emirs, caliphs, whatever, vice regent, whatever Islamic title we want to give to these positions, but this still would be in effect. And to be in a government with integrity, it must be checks and balances and things like that to keep things honorable. A crime or misdemeanor shall consist in a violation of the public law, in the commission of which there shall be a union of act and intention or criminal negligence. That was a Black's Law Dictionary definition. Black's Law Dictionary of foreign. Black's Law Dictionary definition of foreign. Belonging to another nation or country. Belonging or attached to another jurisdiction. Made, done, or rendered in another state or jurisdiction. Subject to another jurisdiction. Operating or solvable in another territory. Extrinsic, outside, extraordinary, non-resident. As a foreign administrator, assignment, attachment, bill of exchange, charity, commerce, corporation, county, creditor, divorce document, domicile, factor, judgment, jury, minister, plea, port, state, vessel, and voyage. See those titles in the Black's Law Dictionary. So, non-resident, right? So foreign to the United States would be a non-US citizen, right? Non-resident. Domestic definition from the Black's Law Dictionary. Pertaining, belonging, or relating to a home, a domicile, or to a place of birth, origin, creation, or transaction. As to domestic administrators, assignments, attachments, bill of exchange, commerce, corporations, creditors, factors, fixtures, judgment, and manufacture. See those titles. The following are excerpts from the book, A History of the United States by Harry Williams of Louisiana State University, Richard N. Current, University of Wisconsin, and Frank Friedel of Harvard University. The Republican Party in each Southern state rested on the basis of the Negro voters. That was page 23. Republican power in the South depended on three supports: the Negro vote, Republican control of the national government, and particularly of the presidency and the presence of federal troops in the South. Reconstruction was the transforming change that occurred in the entire nation between 1865 and 1877, the year when Southern whites overthrew the last Republican state governments in their section and ended political reconstruction. All attempts of the rich whites to dominate the Negro vote failed, and finally, the promoters joined the general white opposition to radical reconstruction. By one method or another, legal or illegal, every white man was to be forced to join the Democratic Party or leave the community. By similar methods, every Negro male was to be excluded from the political action. In a few states, he was permitted to vote if he voted Democratic. Lincoln's proclamation asked the South to recognize the reality that slavery was dead, but it did not require that a state formally abolish slavery as an institution. The Black Codes were the South's solution for the problem of the Negro laborer and its substitute for slavery as a white supremacy device. So Christian Black Codes is what was used to keep that quote unquote slavery going or forced servitude going, and under the guise of penal codes. Now, today they're called penal code statutes and ordinances. In its original inception, it was called the Christian Black Codes. And the purpose of the Christian Black Codes was to keep the people that identified as minorities, Blacks, colors, etc., under a certain regulation. And remember Article 1, keep that in mind. They call our people the Jews off top. And you see the distinguishment from how quote unquote slaves can't have weapons unless they got permission from their master. Examine that, we'll fast forward today. What meant the laws of the colony, right? You need a license to have a quote unquote weapon or whatnot, which that's a complete opposite of what? The Second Amendment. You have the right to bear arms to secure a free state. There go that word again, state, group of people bound together by common law. So you have the right to bear arms to secure a state. That means secure an organized group of people that have businesses, schools, mufti circling the block, organization, treasury, sheiks. Now you got the right to invoke that Second Amendment. When that's clear as day, that is little Morocco over there. It's thriving. Cakewalk after that. But if you're not doing that, and you don't know your history, now you fall victim to what the foreigner talking about. And our people that were under the spell at that time were under the Christian Black Codes. So you might see somebody look just like you in a zone that's called South Carolina, and everybody in that little area, that territory, think they're in not South Carolina. You had our people that weren't in that mind frame looking at this shit like, this shit crazy. Because clearly in the Sundry Free Moors Act, which was 1790, our people in the 1790s was distinguishing in South Carolina congressional record. You can look up that, look, man, we Moors. Our Sultan got a treaty with the United States. We not Negroes. We're not subject to the South Carolina law, the Negro Act, Christian Black Codes. We're not subject to that. Just to give you background on what was going on. Our people on the same land, different mind frames. It was starting to be more contagious. And now you have it as we have it today. People don't even know about this information like that. I'm saying so. The black codes were the South solution for the problem of the Negro laborer and its substitute for slavery as a white supremacy device. Some states passed their laws for the specific purpose of forcing Negroes back to the plantations and farms. Socially, the codes were designed to govern relations between the races, to define the position of the former slaves in the Southern society, and to invest the Negroes with a recognized and legal, although subordinate status. Subordinate status. Those who contended that education and economic progress was inadequate and advocated more militant methods expressed themselves through a somewhat loose organization known as the Niagara Movement. But in 1909, after a race riot in Springfield, Illinois, they came together to establish the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. Although most of the officers of the new society were whites, the guiding spirit was W.E.B. Du Bois. See, sellouts, traitors. The Niagara Movement was probably the last honorable one that got shut down, and here we go. After the riot and people got scattered, here come the NAACP that looks so shiny and cute, and they offering all these solutions, slick talkers. You know what I mean? And here we go, the Great Schism. You know what I mean? So let me stop this recording. Stop from right there, because damn near an hour.